Good evening, everyone. My name is Chelsea Clark, and I am the Assistant Director at Conewago, Indiana, an inpatient facility at one of the Fire Tree locations. Tonight, I'm going to present on addiction, the first seminar in our little family webinar that focuses on families with individuals who have someone in addiction. So I'm going to start our presentation this evening, and it's titled Understanding Addiction. So addiction involves craving something intensely, loss of control over use, and continued involvement despite the adverse consequences. Addiction is a complex brain disease that causes the inability to stop using a substance or engaging in a behavior, even though it's causing psychological and physical harm. Addiction causes a person to struggle with their behaviors and struggles to control their behaviors. They have strong cravings, difficult with responding to emotions, and the inability to abstain from use. People can become addicted to a variety of things to include alcohol, drugs, shopping, food, sex, pornography, video games, and gambling. Nearly 23 million Americans, that's almost 1 in 10, are addicted to alcohol or some other substance. More than 2/3 of people with an addiction often abuse alcohol. The top 3 drugs causing addiction are marijuana, opioids, and cocaine. Addiction is now understood to be a brain disease. Whether it's alcohol, prescription pain pills, nicotine, or gambling, overcoming addiction isn't as simple as just stopping or exercising greater control over those impulses. This is what is impacted when you hear about reward systems or pathways. One of the most significant parts of the brain is the reward system. This is developed as a way to reinforce behaviors we need to survive, such as eating. So when we eat foods, the reward pathways activate a chemical that's called dopamine, which in turn releases a jolt of satisfaction. And this piece encourages you to eat again in the future. So it's telling our brains that we need that. When a person develops an addiction to a substance, it's because the brain has started to change. This happens because addictive substances trigger an outsized response when they reach our brain. Instead of a simple pleasurable surge of dopamine, many drugs of abuse, such as opioids, cocaine, or nicotine, cause dopamine to flood the reward pathway 10 times more than a natural reward. This happens because addiction develops when the pleasure circuits in the brain get overwhelmed in a way that it can become chronic, but sometimes even more permanent. So there are several different types of substances to include depressants, stimulants, narcotics, inhalants, or hallucinogens. And this little chart kind of breaks them down to specific types of substance, but also their impact on the body. So depressants can include alcohol, Prozac, Xanax, and these types of substances often slow down the body and the brain. The stimulants can include crack cocaine, amphetamines, or methamphetamines, and they often accelerate the heart rate, elevate our blood pressure, and often overstimulate our body. Next, we have narcotics, and those are often known to relieve pain, induce euphoria, and create those mood changes. And some of those include heroin, morphine, methadone, or Vicodin. Next, we have inhalants, and these often cause those mind-altering effects and results. And they can include paint, gasoline, hairsprays, or plastic cement, and etc. And lastly, we have hallucinogens, and that's sometimes LSD or ecstasy. And these can cause the user to perceive things in a different way. Next, I want to jump in and discuss our risk factors and our protective factors. Now, those risk factors are those negative influences in someone's life or in a community. And these often increase the presence of crime, victimization, fear of crime in a community, and may also increase the likelihood of those individuals becoming actively involved in crime or becoming a victim. On the other side, we have protective factors, and these are influences that can improve the lives of individuals or the safety of that community. These may decrease the likelihood that individuals engage in crime, or become victims themselves. So some risk factors and addictive behavior. We have family history of addiction, a mental health disorder, peer pressure, lack of family involvement, anxiety, depression, or loneliness. So people of any age, sex, or economic status can become addicted to a substance. However, certain factors, like these ones listed below, can affect the likelihood and speed of developing an addiction. So if someone has a blood relative, such as a parent or a sibling with alcohol or drug problem, they're at a higher risk for developing an addiction. If someone has a mental health disorder, such as anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, they're more likely to become dependent on a substance. Peer pressure is a very strong indicator of when someone starts to use substances, particularly for our younger individuals, so our teenagers. Also, difficult family situations or a lack of bond with a parent or a sibling may increase the risk of addiction, as well as a lack of parental supervision. Using drugs to cope with anxiety, depression, or loneliness can often make these issues worse for an individual because they're unable to control those feelings. So on the other side, we have protective factors. And these are the factors that often prevent someone to becoming engaged with substance use. And that's having a higher level of self-esteem, practicing religion, peer factor, so a positive support group, whether if it's friends, a close-knit family, higher self-control, parental monitoring, so having parents that have that bond with their child and also understand the parental aspect of it, so knowing where their child may be for those teenagers. Academic competence, so succeeding in school, or a strong neighborhood attachment. So family members are often desperately concerned about a loved one's drug or alcohol use, but they often don't know how to begin the conversation about addiction. For many people struggling with addiction, they are often motivated to seek treatment by the care and concern of their loved one. It is important for a family to push through any discomfort they may have about initiating this conversation about their loved one's substance use. It's also important to be supportive and non-judgmental to these specific individuals during addiction. You should also practice that conversation with them and often show your non-judgmental, but also be very specific about the behavioral patterns that you've observed, but also be ready to help them, whether that may be helping them get into treatment or just having that initial conversation with them. Substance use affects everyone in the family. So it's important that family members are involved in the treatment and recovery process for both adults and youth. Self-fulfilling prophecies are real. If you believe in someone, they are more likely to succeed. If you doubt them, they're more likely to fail. The challenges facing someone you might seem overwhelming, but the benefits of helping an individual in addiction to live in recovery far outweigh the cost for you, for them, and for society. You may have to adjust your lifestyle to help your loved one's recovery along. If they live with you, eliminating medicines from their home, removing reminders of their addiction, and providing healthy opportunities may be necessary. You learn that you have contributed to the betterment of someone you love. Not everyone can say they have helped someone. You will learn more about yourself and your loved one more than you thought possible. Relapses occur, and they're part of recovery. Do not lose faith in your loved one just because they use again. Support them, understand them, and give them the direction that they need. You cannot stop anyone from using any more than you can force them to start using. Accept that and be there for them. It's really all that you can do. Your responsibility to yourself takes priority. You cannot help anyone if you're unable to take care of yourself. You have to put yourself first, no matter what. One piece that's very vital is self-care, both self-care for the individual who's in addiction, but also as the family member as well. There are very many different components of self-care to include emotional, physical, spiritual, and social. Those emotional self-care aspects allows one to work through both the negative and the positive emotions constructively. This can include journaling or individual therapy or counseling sessions, or providing one with that positive affirmation every day. Physical self-care includes activities that engage and exert the physical body to release energy and stress. This could even be walking in the woods, attending a yoga class, or going to the gym, or just going outside. Spiritual self-care activities involve one to get in touch with their core values and dig deeper into who they are and what really matters to them. This can include meditation or attending a religious service regularly, like church. Social activities for self-care allows one to connect with others and maintain a sense of shared human experience. So this could be spending time with a positive close friend in one's life, attending an outside of the event that's outside of the home, so getting involved with the community. Self-care is very vital both for the individual who is in addiction, but also the family as well. You have to be able to take care of yourself in order to be able to help someone else. There are a variety of different treatment options that are offered while someone is in treatment. Some include cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, group therapy, 12-step programs, medication-assisted treatment. So CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, helps people to develop different ways of thinking and behaving, and that often changes and reduces their psychological distress. Individuals who practice CBT often gain a greater sense of self-control and develop positive coping mechanisms. So this helps retrain their mind. Motivational interviewing is a very client-centered approach and is effective for people who have mixed feelings about changing their behavior. So this is very used to help someone who might not be really internally motivated to remain in treatment. So this approach is used by clinicians to help them change that mindset and kind of help them get their mixed feelings to more a positive side and for them to want to remain motivated and remain in treatment. Next, we have group therapy. And this is often generally centered around a particular topic. It could be codependency, relationships, emotions, grief, trauma, positive thinking, substance abuse education groups. It's just a wide range of topics that individuals can engage in while they're in treatment. Next, we have the 12-step programs. This is NA Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is designed for people to help one another achieve and maintain abstinence from drugs and alcohol. Lastly, we have medication-assisted treatment. And this is of use of medications in combination with counseling and behavioral therapies to provide a whole patient approach to the treatment of substance use disorders. Some examples of MAT, medication-assisted treatment, can be Vivitrol, Suboxone, Sublocade, Methadone. And these kind of help those individuals reduce cravings in conjunction with therapy and counseling approaches as well. Here at Firetree, we offer a variety of services to include residential treatment, halfway houses, outpatient treatment, and residential programs, residential reentry programs. Now, our residential treatment, we have a few locations, and these are our inpatient centers. Individuals reside here 24/7, and they're in treatment 24/7. They attend groups, which can include positive thinking, cognitive behavioral therapy, substance abuse education, trauma-informed care, and the list goes on. Individuals work closely here with their counselor to begin to develop those coping skills while they're here in treatment to get to their next stage of treatment, which may be a halfway house or returning home. Firetree also has halfway houses within our company. There are two locations, New Way of Life, which is located in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and New Way of Life Snyder, which is in Beavertown, Pennsylvania. So at these halfway houses, they really work together and focus on Firetree's mission statement, which is together building a new way of life. So they work with their team, with our clients to help them change their thinking and behavior in order to maintain that sobriety. So here they start to attend classes, they do groups, they work with a counselor as well, and they start to reintegrate back into society, whether if that's getting employment, going to school. They're preparing those next steps while remaining in treatment, but also working on reintegrating back into the community. Firetree also works closely with Genesis and provides outpatient services as well to clients. This is the level of care that's generally after intensive outpatient services. So it could be roughly 3 hours a week. They still live at home. The individual's back at home, back and working on recovery, but they're still attending that drug and alcohol services through Genesis or another outpatient provider. Firetree also offers services through the reentry program. And at these facilities, they work with professional staff to design a comprehensive plan to ensure the reentry into the community is successful. They obtain job placement assistance, secure and maintain employment, participate in particular programs. They attend life skills that include preparing a resume, developing basic interviewing skills, and basic computer training skills. They also receive lessons on money management, parenting, and anger management as well. And these are some general resources for all family members to have. This is Firetree's contact information, or you can visit our website at www.firetree.com. This is SAMHSA's national helpline. It's 1-800-487-4889. We also provided information for Alcoholics Anonymous, their website, and Narcotics Anonymous 12-step programs website as well. So that's the end of the presentation. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in with us tonight.